accuracy that a primary 6 students, or even for, let's say, a SS3 students will pick his calculator and add together is what we are grappling with here.
The Deputy Director of Finance says the document was prepared by the Head of Planning, Research and Development, but she denies it.
Well, we'll tell you why those shots were fired in just a moment. But good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday morning nonetheless. I'm Kayode Okikele.
Shots fired?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the show. I'm Ayo Makinde.
From Abuja, I'm Maope Ogun Yusuf.
Well, you didn't think they were armed enough, right, did you? Well, yeah, those were shots, and they were below the belt.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
actually, the reason why is because, I mean, the House of Reps Committee on Public Accounts,
Yeah.
you know, they've been having this sitting. They even had with the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 as well. It was the same committee. So they frowned at that's the Refugees and Migrant Commission for submitting what they described as a poor computation of budgetary figures. And that was why it turned out eventually that they were passing the buck. So the committee was saying that, look, those figures that were presented were inconsistent and lacked basic mathematical computations. And you would have thought, oh, is it the COVID that's making certain things not go right at this point in time?
Wow.
No pun intended, but it was at least, you didn't expect that kind of commentary, that kind of scenario. But these are some of the challenges we faced with all of these preparations. It speaks about a lot of things, really. Number one, how prepared do they get when they go to some of these budget defense?
Yeah.
And when you hear about budget being doctored up, padded, and certain things don't go right, this could just be some of the reasons. And now they couldn't even identify who did it because they eventually started passing the buck, and one said, well, no, I wasn't the one who did it. So the process, the budgetary process, goodness me, it just leaves a lot to be desired, really.
Especially when you look at the role of the commission. I mean, recently they added IDP's responsibility to the commission. So basically, that commission is responsible for refugees, asylum seekers, returnees, state-led persons, IDPs, and migrants. So you understand that this is a big deal. So here we are right now. The budget has to be taken back to be sorted out. I mean, you had the statement from the member of the National Assembly saying, I mean, simple mathematical computations. This is a statement some of us heard when we were in primary school trying to defend our math assignment and the results. But hearing that at this stage raises a lot of questions. This is a commission responsible for, let me say, millions of people. Millions of people actually depend on this particular commission. So hearing that is quite concerning, gives me a lot of concern, and they have to go back, sort this out. And the question is, how many more commissions go through this process? That's a big question, but here we are right now.
Two things come to my mind, guys. The first one is, wait, didn't they apply board mass? I'm just saying.
Does it apply here, though?
Okay. Often when we talk about government, one thing I usually like to do is to decrypt the word government. Who are we talking about here? There is the elected official who has a maximum of 8 years to spend. That's in the executive arm. There is the appointed, maybe the minister. Some of them are tenured, like the CBN governor, who has a maximum of 10 years of 2 terms. And there's, of course, ministers and DGs of parastatals whose tenure may or may not expire before the tenure of the government in power. Then there are the set of people that are appointed, that are employed. These are also government officials, and these are some of the people that have been talked about here. So many times when we talk about government, the question I ask myself is, who are we talking about? So these are the people that will execute the policies that the elected official is going to come up with, that the laws that the National Assembly will come up with, these are the people that will execute these laws. So when we talk about government, these are the people, and they spend longer years, 35 years, tops, or up until maybe age 65 or thereabouts. So the question then you want to ask is, again, that question that Chamberlain has asked a number of times, what is our leadership recruitment style or policy? So when we talk about the people that we elect, are we talking about the people that we employ? It's a very huge question. And this category of people fall into that category, and there are thousands of them in service, federal or state. Okay.
You know, I'm just looking at the story right now, and you can see that I know that the House of Representatives, even though they're not in full session, they've been trying to, ensure that their committee meetings still hold. And this particular probe wasn't really a budget defense. So they're sitting before the House Committee on Public Accounts, which we know is traditionally chaired by a member of the opposition party, because this particular committee goes through not just the accounts presented by the MDAs, but also the audited reports as presented by the Auditor General of the Federation. So I think this particular committee was sitting on the audited reports as presented by this particular commission in the last 4 years. And it would seem that there were lots of inconsistencies noted in that particular report that they had presented. And a number of the numbers, or a lot of the numbers that they presented, did not add up. That's one of the reasons we've seen the rage of members of the House of Representatives, that the numbers you have presented here, or the way you have done your addition, unnecessary students will do better. And I think that's very telling, the state of our budget. Every year we do a passage of the budget. That budget is supposed to be the statement of intent that should affect the lives of everyday Nigerians. It is what the government says we intend to do for you. And I think that increasingly we must take an interest in what goes into that particular budget. I know that not everybody has the wherewithal to be able to look into it, and oftentimes the sheer size of it all, when you see the president presenting that budget, yeah, it does look that big and it can be that bulky. But I think that if we can, as much as we're able to, knowing that this is something that's supposed to be for all Nigerians, we should be able to take an interest in what is in that budget. Because year in, year out, we see these amounts of money, this humongous amounts of money being allocated, and it would seem that our lives are getting worse. 25 billion allocated to the National, I'm trying to see the name now, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons. Now, they claim that in the last 4 years, they have spent 23 billion on capital projects within their commission, and that maybe just about 2 billion has gone on overheads and a number of other recurrent expenditure. With what we know of refugees on the ground, looking from what is happening in Cross River State, looking at what is happening in what's the name now, in the Northeast, looking even at the traditional refugees we've had for some time in Lagos, can we really say that the amount of money they're saying is in their budget is justified? These are questions that we need to ask. If somebody were to spend 23 billion somewhere, shouldn't you be able to say that this is how it has affected the lives of people? Every year, year in, year out, we keep doing special reports on people who have returned from Bakassi. If you go to where they currently are staying, you will be appalled. Your heart will break. So I think that it is a good thing that the House of Representatives is still finding time to be able to find a way to sit despite the pandemic. The commission has promised that they'll be back in 1 week. Well, it's certainly a story that we should follow up on and see, how they're able to justify what they have done with 25 billion naira in the last 4 years. Gentlemen.
Well, the thing is, they were actually turned back by that committee, asking them, listen, if you have to go get somebody from, did they say SS3? Maybe you should listen to it yourself.
Appointment.
The director of planning, she's not an accountant. I don't expect that statement from you.
So who prepared the document?
My department.
My
department.
Your department?
Yes.
And,
that's why
you didn't supervise it?
I take full responsibility.
No, wait, please. Just answer the few questions. It's not as if you are not taking responsibility. We have to get certain things done right. Because we are talking about a document that you are defending.
Yes.
A document that is supposed to emanate from your office.
Yes.
A document that even your boss was supposed to rely on because you will be the author of that document.
Yes.
And you are only coming here to take responsibility for not properly scrutinizing that document.
Yes.
Raises a lot of questions.
Even the head of the commission accepts the failure, as pointed out by the lawmakers.
I want to assure you that we'll take back the documents and make sure that all the necessary corrections are made, and it will be returned back as soon as possible so that we avoid any further embarrassment.
The Commission now has 1 week to reconcile all the figures in its budgets from 2015 till date. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Yeah, let's take you through the dailies if you can get that off your head in terms of the quality of the people who are in those positions that determine what happens to millions of people. Well, you can make up your mind on what you've just seen. But let's take a look at Nigerian Tribune first today. Lopsided appointments. Clark, Fashion-Oti, Adebanjo, Wodo, 12 others sue Buhari for 50 billion naira. That's a big lead on the front page of Tribune here today. APC governors want party organs to meet. Party youths want NWC dissolved. The Tribune copiously reports that this morning. And then Izeyamo emerges APC governorship candidate. Giadom writes INEC says no primaries held. Ajimobi-led NWC swears in Nwogo as Deputy National Secretary. Rivers APC crisis worsens. EXCO suspends chairman. So, wow, there you go. It's that's what the scenario you see right there. And then you also do find about this lead story. COVID-19. Nigeria not yet safe for reopening of schools. FG tells governors. And look at this one. No state in Nigeria is free of virus. PTF. So, what's happening to
Cross River?
CRS? Yeah.
Well, the NCDC did say emphatically that, you know what, let's be honest with ourselves. No state, no nation in the world, in fact, went as far as saying that no nation in the world is free of COVID-19. So, so maybe the NCDC should remove Cross River from that, that no case map.
Because you need evidence.
There you go. So just so many questions about this one now. And then, guys, don't forget this one. Demolition of embassy in Ghana reveals Nigeria's rating under Buhari. Oops, that's ascribed to the PDP. So that's what that's their opinion. Nigerian Tribune.
There's something very interesting on that back page.
Well, yeah, it was.
No, is that title?
Some of this things. So let's kill the politicians. Okay. Well, you might want to read it up and see what context is that.
To get context, which is very important. But let's take a look at Vanguard for you this morning. The big story: Clark, Adebanjo, Wodo, others sue Buhari for 50 billion naira. I'm not sure I've seen this. I mean, this kind of case.
So really. You've seen that amount of money in football, EPL and all of that.
Yeah, but in this context, I'm not too old, so maybe it happened before my time, but take a look at the reason for that. Alleged discrimination, decry lopsided appointments, accuse president of marginalization in citing project, say president has breached 1999 constitution. Well, this has been on for a while, but then it has been taken to court.
Oh. Yeah, there you go.
So you see more details on page 3. Really,
I see this smirk on Chamberlain's face, and I'm suspecting him.
No, maybe he was thinking you're going to say, well, by this time, 60 years ago, or 70 years
to give us some history.
I haven't said anything.
Has this ever happened, though?
I haven't said anything.
Okay, so while you check your archives, let me take a look at
check your library, please.
There's more stories on the front page. You see the big picture shows protesters storming the APC office. Protesters always storm in this part of the world, and you understand why if you take a look at that story in the pages of the Vanguard newspaper. But let me give you some form of killjoy for people seeking admission. Remember that cut-off mark that generated some controversy? Well, you see JAMB coming out to say, do not rely on our cut-off marks for admission, JAMB tells candidates. What was that for? Apparently, institutions always set their own cut-off mark. So it's as though JAMB said yay to them, and then all of a sudden says nay. That's not what's going to happen. But you see more details on page 3.
So immediately that's so why give us that cut-off mark then?
You wonder why. Big question. Then you see this one. How is a Yamu won Edo APC primary? Asks Obaseki to rejoin party.
How? Wasn't it by election?
Well, it's on page 8 of the Vanguard this morning. You know, the build-up to the election has had a lot of...
It's still building up, bro. It's still building
and it
up.
seems that is not ending anytime soon. A couple of other stories. APC crisis festers as party governors meet Buhari. Protesters storm parties at Abuja head office, demand sack of NWC. That speaks to the picture. But let me quickly go to the sports page briefly. You see this one. Leicester boss tasks Ndidi Iheanacho as they chase Champions League return. So 2 Nigerian players should play a key role in that one. And
they could slip up if they don't win as much games.
Exactly.
Start close. Yeah.
And you see this one, Everton versus Liverpool becomes most watched Premier League clash. You know, for a match that ended barren, goalless, it's kind of interesting. 5.5 million TV viewers actually tuned in to watch a match without goals. But you know, that's football for you. We'll leave it there for the Vanguard.
What's interesting is how much was made.
All right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The Guardian newspaper is next, and of course, gives us a completely different story on the front page. The main story is about business. Investors shun bank shares despite 260 billion naira Q1 profit. Over 65% of stocks undervalued. Banks trade at discounts. Operators blame capital flight. Task government on patronage. This is not a time for capital flight, and maybe it's something that you want to pay attention to. Ize Iyamo gets Edo APC ticket, turns to Batseki to return to party. Crisis engulfs Rivers State chapter as Buhari Governors Forum parley over stalemate. That story is right beside a couple of pictures you see there of a PDP picture and an APC picture. Call it balance if you like. Right under that, a string of stories. Southern leaders initiate 50 billion naira suit against Buhari over alleged marginalization. No state is coronavirus free. NCDC insists. Stories on page 3. Resign honorably now. Ondo APC tells deputy governor. Find that story on page 7. And police arrest Cuba aspirant impersonating Kyari's widow. Oh dear. That story is on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. On the back page is sports. Lobby stars cry foul over LMC's adoption of PPG to decide NPFL 2019-2020 season, along with other stories. And here is something you might find interesting. Muhammad Ali wouldn't have stopped Black Lives Matter, says Son. Why is that coming up? Find out on the back page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Let's quickly look at Daily Trust this morning. Rescue APC. Governors beg Buhari. Why president remains neutral. Protesters want NWC members sacked. Ize Iyamo emerges Edo governorship candidate. Bombs replaces Gyadom. That's the late story on the front page of Daily Trust. You also see there 2 options for Nigerian pilgrims as Saudi Arabia cancels international Hajj. You also see at the bottom there, Ondo, PDP extends sale of forms to accommodate deputy governor. That's also there. And then on top, or just beneath the nameplate, they have a number of stories which might interest you. How long will COVID-19 immunity really last? So there are those who are wondering if you've had the disease before, you are now immune somewhat to it. How long will that immunity last? And you also see this very, very disturbing story, which I believe the Nasarawa state government should not take lying low. 3-month-old Nasarawa baby stolen from mother's bed, raped, fight for life. There's something very sick about the story. Something very sick is going on. How do you rape a 3-month-old baby? And that's on the front page of Daily Trust newspapers this morning. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Wow, terrible. Well, take a look at leadership next. Governors meet PMB as APC crisis spreads to states. Protests rock party's national secretariat. Gyadom writes INEC as Ize Iyamo emerges APC governorship candidate. NWC swears in bombs as Gyadom's replacement. Reverse APC suspends Agoma, appoints new caretaker committee chair. So there you go. Spread into states, as leadership highlights this morning. And we're speaking about COVID-19. Don't abandon non-COVID-19 patients, FG tells hospitals. And remember that before now, they had this huge challenge. Those who were going to the hospitals for treatment other than COVID, the hospitals were a little scared because they just thought, look, we don't know what symptoms you have. We don't have facilities to check if you've got COVID. We've not been even designated as a center or trained to do COVID. So you know what they do? They throw their hands up in the air and reject patients. And that has been going on for
Of course,
a while.
we've raised that, again and again. Let's just hope there's some comforts coming from wherever. Because, of course, I mean, with all the talk about PPEs for healthcare professionals.
Yeah. That's for those who are designated to treat those government workers, doctors, attending to COVID-19 cases.
Wouldn't you say that every hospital should have that preparedness now? Because really, you never know.
And I think that's what the resident doctors were pushing for, saying, let's give all our members, regardless of where they are, let's give them something to be protected at least.
Well, that's going to be a big ask. Who knows? Because right now it has to go beyond these pronouncements. Because the thing is, look, there will be hospitals who will admit patients who are not suspected to have COVID. And
Exactly. Which is the reason for their own call that, look, give us PPEs for all across board, because you never really can tell.
Well, that's a challenge. So what if they say, look, are we supposed to provide PPEs for private hospitals?
Oh, privates definitely should.
Well,
and I think they've been doing that anyway.
Perhaps.
A lot of them, you see them with their masks and the usual things.
Well, look at some of the other riders. No state is free of virus, NCDC insists. Maybe Cross River State might want to take note. UK donates PCR machine to Nigeria. COVID-19 pandemic still accelerating. WHO. And I wonder what you make of this one. Just at the bottom strip here, Trump tried stopping $1.5 billion aid to Nigeria, says ex-US NSA Bolton. Remember him? He's been all over the place now, firing on all cylinders.
Opening kind of worms, as you might call it.
And boy, what a revelation that was. But this one goes to read, ECOWAS endorses Okonjo-Iweala for WTO DG, because WTO did say she's eligible. She's in the running for that. It doesn't matter what AU thinks or what Egypt thinks, but she is in the running, and we've got to stick with that. I mean, that they need to understand that. However they want. Well, that is, a look at the leadership and some of the other dailies here this morning. So we will be back and examine some of the scenarios playing themselves out in a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, yes, that's the governor, but we know he's since left the APC. But yeah, he's joined the PDP, but he's not gotten the ticket yet. So waiting for what happens in that regard, because there's some new information about court cases within the PDP. But who knows? That will be for a little later. But focusing on what is going on within the APC, we've got Dr. Samson Jaja, who is a member of the Board of Trustees of the APC, joining us from Abuja. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right. Well, having seen the way the primaries has played out in Edo State, for those who agree, you think that they should be willing to let sleeping dogs lie now?
I will say, when you invited me to this program, my decision is to come here and pour out my indignation at the way the NWC has been carrying on its activities of administering the party. But having been made to know that Mr. President, the leader of the party, will be intervening in the crisis, it has actually withered down my resentment and, of course, the way I'm going to go about this issue. I really do not want to be judgmental now, which is what I would have done ordinarily without the Mr. President showing interest in what is happening. So the primaries that took place in Edo State is still contentious. Yes, it's taking place, but some factions of the NWC are also not in alignment with what happened in Edo State yesterday. So like I said, I don't want to be judgmental. So when you say allowing the sleeping dog to lie, that lies with the NWC themselves. If they were allowed the sleeping dog to lie, it's not of me to talk about that.
Well, when you speak about the president going to intervene, is it clear-cut that he will? And what manner of intervention do you expect? Because there are those who are asking for different things. Some say the NWC needs to go. Some say let's convene in NEC to sort all of this out once and for all. What do you expect?
Yes, the president has a lot more information than any one of us. He's been meeting with different segments of the party, different individuals, different groups. Apart from the organs he has not met with. So he has a lot of information as to how to go about it. But if you ask me, I will tell you that categorically that the NWC had failed the party completely. They had failed the party without remedy. They had blatantly raped the constitution of the party. They have no moral justification to even say anything that concerns the progress of the party because they don't have the progress of the party at heart. So it behoves the party now to convoke the National Executive Meeting to take a proper way. Do you know that the party has no board of trustees who would have been handling these issues, who would have been intervening, who would have been mediating? I mean, it's an insult. It's an insult to the psyche, to the intelligence of every member of this party. That a party, a great party like this, a ruling party, has no fundamental organ that is supposed to be the custodian, the conscience of the party. The NWC is a failure as far as I'm concerned.
But you are a member of the Board of Trustees of the APC. So when you say there is no Board of Trustees, what exactly are you talking about?
Yeah, we're about 161 persons that were appointed members of the Board of Trustees from our separate areas. But we've not been inaugurated. So we cannot be operating from our homes. It's just that on paper. Ordinarily, would have even been ending our 4 years.
But what's supposed to be?
Now, the first tenure of the Board of Trustees has not been inaugurated. The party has never had Board of Trustees. They have not had the conscience of the party. The people who are supposed to are betrayed.
So what is supposed to be the role of the Board of Trustees?
Crisis.
Yeah, just one moment. What is supposed to be the role of the Board of Trustees, and why has no one raised any issue about the fact that the trustees, the board hasn't been inaugurated?
That has been raised severally. There are papers even going around now on that issue. A lot of people have talked about it. But for the reason best known to the NWC, they have refused to inaugurate the Board of Trustees. And their role, they are the conscience of the party. They are the custodians of the assets of the party. They are to mediate intervene in crisis in the party. They are to ratify all appointments, all committees appointed. They have critical roles to play. They are the interpreters of the constitution of the party. And this organ, and also a body, has not been inaugurated. And of course, that's where we find ourselves.
Okay. Well, when you say you decided to just change the way you were going to be, you're not going to be judgmental since the president is going to be intervening. It's also equally important to see how we can aggregate different views such that when eventually, at least the president can, having heard from so many other people. But we also do have joining us this morning, Honorable Samson Osage, who is a former minority whip, to weigh in on the matter as well. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, haven't also heard that, the governors did meet with the president, trying to see how he could wade into all of this. Did you equally change your mindset as to what to expect moving forward?
Hello, Chamberlain.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. It's
okay.
Nice to be with you this morning.
Thank you. So go ahead. Did you get the question?
Yeah, whether I could still make some comments about the issues on ground in the APC following the president's decision to intervene. Of course, it is only those who are probably part and parcel of those precipitating crises in the APC that will shy away from speaking the truth. At the moment, if you look at the composition of the National Working Committee, you will understand clearly we have one man who is now on a riot spree, trying to cause problem and foment troubles within the NWC, and that is Mr. Victor Giadon. The entire body of the NWC are intact, and you can see that it is only him that is foisting the chairmanship of the party on himself and not allowing the processes that have been set in motion by the NWC for the conduct of the primaries in Edo State to flow seamlessly. But thank God we have achieved substantial success. We are taking that behind us now. We have a candidate in the APC in Edo State. And the NWC, as you can see, is intact in spite of the judicial intervention with respect to the suspension of the chairman. Ajimobi, Senator Ajimobi, is the acting chairman of the party, who is being represented on a few occasions now by the National Vice Chairman South-South. I do not think that we should completely blame the NWC for what has happened. If you have a home and organization where very few persons have made themselves available as tools for disruption and crisis, it takes a lot to manage such a system, and that is what you find in the NWC. The NWC is the administrative organ of the National Executive Committee, and that organ also consists of Mr. President and the Vice President. Mr. President knows exactly what the issues are. When the governors came out from the meeting with him, they stated that much, that you will be amazed at the volume of information before Mr. President on the crisis in the party. And so he understands the issues involved. He understands that people are doing their calculations for 2023 and they want to control the soul of the party. He understands the forces at play, and he knows those who are precipitating crisis. And I want to thank the governors who have now decided to say, okay, we need to intervene and put paid to some of this crisis. APC is strong in Edo State here. We have a candidate now, and we are ready to confront the next elections, in spite of the effort of Mr. Giadom and some of his sponsors to ensure that the Rivers position, where they could not produce a candidate, becomes the lot of Edo State, even
Honorable
though we were not
if you can hear me,
for it.
If you can hear me earlier.
You land are clear.
Hear me? Oh, great. So we spoke with Dr. Sam Jaja. I hope you caught that conversation. And he was saying emphatically that the NWC has failed the party. Now, there are a lot of angles to this. A lot of people are calling for the NWC to be dissolved and what have you. But you seem to be saying that this is not the fault of the NWC whatsoever. So what is that solution you're looking for?
The solution lies in party members and people who have been given responsibility in the NWC to be responsible. What we find today is that certain persons who have responsibility in the NWC have lent themselves as instrument of destructions of the party's activities by external forces. So it's for those people to be reined in, called to order, and made to follow the rules and regulations of the party. The NWC is intact. As you can see, we only have one man that is on a riot spree, and that's Mr. Victor Giadon. And that is the position as of today. So, and I believe Mr. President understands this, and the governors also understand this at this moment. So if there be a judicial intervention affirming the suspension of the national chairman, we ought to allow the judicial process to run through, and then the next in line takes over. It's not for a deputy national secretary who resigned long ago to be foisting himself, procuring court orders, to come and say it's the national chairman. Okay. Where can that bring about peace? It can never bring about peace. So my solution and my prescription is that party members, party leaders, and party officials need to be disciplined. That is it.
Well, you've mentioned Mr. Victor Giadon, and let's just go over to Dr. Jaja just to get clarification, because you particularly mentioned that name at least 2-3 times. So, Dr. Jaja, he has said for him, that's Honorable Sage, he believes that Mr. Victor Giadon is the main issue here. You think it's the NWC. Some will say he's also part of the NWC. But you know what? Help us clear the air on that. Do you agree with Honorable Osage?
Well, I definitely do not agree with Honorable Osage. Gentlemen, I am a fundamental core stakeholder in this party from beginning. I want to preserve this party, which I labored for, which I suffered for. I was one of the 4 signatories to the Memorandum of Understanding between the APC and the new PDP. And therefore, I cannot be seen to be taking sides to destroy the party. Calling names is absolutely not the right thing to do. Insinuating that people from outside are penetrating the NWC is absolutely wrong. If the NWC is doing something wrong, point it out. They have blatantly disrespected and disregarded the Constitution, and that is where the problem is coming from. And like I told, I don't want to be judgmental. If we go into depth of what the NWC has done, they have no moral right to still be there. It's not a question of singling out somebody. What culminated into Victor asking to be the chairman? And of course, if he had gotten a court order to be the chairman, and you are true leaders, you go along with him and you had the number, as you say, in a meeting. You know how to go about it. I will not come now to lay my party bare before the public, before the international community. It is not done, most especially when my president is going to intervene. I don't just need to prejudice the position of my president. I have my own bias and prejudice too. But I wouldn't come here to accuse anybody. I'm accusing the body of the National Working Committee of having done things wrongly, of having disrespected the Constitution they have sworn to uphold. And that is where the core of the crisis lies. A lot of things had gone wrong. They have done so many things that angers most of us who are fundamental stakeholders in this venture. It's not calling names. It's not justifying whatever position you are taking. What is wrong is wrong. And it's been happening over and over and over and over again. It's not the first time.
Exactly the issue.
And it's not just that Victor's from Rivers State, and that's what ordinarily I wouldn't have wanted to come, because people will look at my opinion here as being biased. No. I'm being realistic.
Oh, the point that I was going to raise is exactly what you just brought up, that these things have gone on for so long, and some even say that as a result of the activities that you have pointed out, your party has lost a number of states, and now the president is intervening. Some might say that's a little too late in time. What would you say?
Well, it's not too late. It's better late than never. It's not too late. The party has not crashed. The people are just there, festering their own personal interests. Whatever you're accusing A is also applicable to B. It is their interest that they are protecting and not the party. If they are working for the party, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are. And I avoid, like I tell you, it's my party, and I avoid saying anything that will bring my party to disrepute. And that is what exactly they are doing. You bring the party outside and you wash it and spread it without having the cause to know that it is the core institution that puts all of us together in this political system.
Honorable, let me take this to Honorable Samson Osagie. Very, very quickly, you heard one of the things that Dr. Jaja said earlier about the fact that the National Working Committee has not organized the NEC meeting, has not even convened the Board of Trustees. And that, as far as he's concerned, is part of the reason, ways in which the NWC has breached the Constitution. Do you agree?
I don't agree. Dr. Sam Jaja is one of our leaders from the South-South. He was one of the aspirants to the position of national chairman in 2018. The APC did not start from the memorandum of understanding between the new PDP and the APC. I was a member of the Legacy Party. I was an opposition leader of the APC in the House of Representatives. Now, we understand that since the beginning of the year, particularly February up to now, it's been difficult to convoke any meaningful meeting owing to the coronavirus pandemic. Of course, this period would have been the time that all the necessary organs of the body ought to have been meeting. But it has not been made possible by the fact of the coronavirus pandemic ravaging the entire world today. Now, let me say this. I will mention names where the need arises. Is it not an act of irresponsibility for a party official at the national level to run to court to procure a court order in order to foist himself on the leadership of the party? It's an act of irresponsibility. It doesn't matter who is involved. It doesn't matter where the person comes from. And as I speak with you today, the National Working Committee is intact. You just check yourself. The numbers of members in the National Working Committee, they are all working together, except a few others who are being remote controlled from outside. And this is not healthy for the head of the party. And the leadership of the party, Mr. President, the governors, they are aware of this fact. So the point must be made clear that the National Working Committee means well for this party. They are the administrative organs of the party. And I do not see, with respect to the latest event regarding primaries in Edo State, and of course the one coming up in Ondo State, what the National Working Committee has done. Fortunately or unfortunately, Dr. Sam Jaja has not mentioned one thing that the National Working Committee has done wrong to violate the constitution of the party or do what is not right.
Honorable Osagie.
So we cannot begin to make sweeping statements to affect an organ of the party.
What we will do is we will take that point up shortly. We'll take that point up shortly about what the NWC has done. But before we move on to that, there are two things that we need you to clarify. First, you say it's not been easy to have a NEC meeting as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. But your party just held the primaries yesterday. So on that premise, why can't you then do the NEC or the meeting if you're able to hold your primaries? And then secondly, when you... okay, could you want to respond to that one first before we move on to the second one?
Yes, I will respond to that quickly. When there are activities as major as party primaries in the state, you cannot lump series of meetings that precede NEC meeting and up to NEC meeting together. All these things are procedure. Although I'm not a member of the National Working Committee, neither am I speaking for them, but I reason, and I have read statements from the National Working Committee, that this is the reason why that has not happened. In any case, holding party primaries and conducting party primaries is the sole responsibility of the National Working Committee according to the Constitution.
Okay.
Of course, the NEC will give guidelines for it, and that has happened in the past, which guidelines are still extant. So I do not see what has gone wrong, what has gone amiss, except, of course, a few persons or one or two people are busy shopping from one court to the other in order to ensure that the Edo State do not have a candidate of the APC. Nothing can be much more than anti-party for that matter.
Secondly, when you say that, and use the word that they procure the court judgments, don't you think that that denigrates the judiciary? You're painting them in one brush, and that doesn't look good. I mean, having been a lawmaker, they say you should know better.
Let me withdraw that. Let me withdraw that and substitute it with obtaining a court judgment.
Obtaining, procurement, that takes away from... Judgment. Because, I mean, if they approach the courts, if the lawyers, the courts, I mean, aren't they bound to listen to the cases based on what's presented before them?
But as you must have been told or you have heard, the plaintiff in that suit, which has purportedly vested him with the powers to be the leader of the chairman of the party, has said that he didn't ask court for it. So there are a lot of questions begging for answer. The order of court asking Giadon to be acting national chairman was purportedly obtained by Saliu Mustafa, national vice chairman of the Northwest, of the Northeast. Now, and he has come out to deny that he didn't apply to court for that. So why should we give credence to actions of a member of a national working committee whose actions are inimical to the head of the party? All right, these are actions of individuals within the party that we should condemn. We call a spade and not another name. We cannot speak generically without speaking to the issues. This is the issue.
We'll clear one or two more points before we bring in Dr. Jaja when we return from this break in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, Honorable Osage, initially when you started speaking, you did say that the NWC is not completely to blame, meaning to some extent they are to blame. So before we bring Dr. Jaja, you first, to what extent can the NWC be blamed?
I don't think I made any insinuation to that effect. What I said
NWC is not completely to blame in your opening.
No, I don't think I said so.
We all heard you, Honorable Osage.
I have insisted that the NWC is intact and that the few persons within the NWC are the people lending themselves for external manipulation to cause crisis in the party. And I think that has been the dominant part of my presentation today.
Okay, let's say that you
and
take
I said
that back.
That Jaja has not mentioned anything that NWC has done wrong.
Okay. Let's say that you take that back. A number of times you have said, over and over again that some external forces are manipulating some people. Do you want to be specific?
No, I don't have to be specific. These are matters already in public knowledge because I want to take a hint from Dr. Sam Jaja, not to begin to name names on this platform now. But suffice to say that it is an art of indiscipline to party rules and regulation for a member of the NWC to begin to shop for court orders against the constitution of the party in order to foist himself on the leadership of the party.
Well, yes, let's stick to the issues, please. Dr. Jaja, could you go ahead, please?
Yes, let me just address few issues raised by Honorable Osage. First, he talked about APC being there before the new PDP and the MOU. Yes, I never said APC was not there before the amalgam of new PDP with APC. But I said that I am fundamental, so the amalgamation of new APC and new PDP. APC have been there, but they needed the support of the new PDP to be stronger. And that was what we gave. That support we gave helped us to be who we are now as a party in this nation, a ruling party. And that by reason of signing that memorandum of understanding, I am a core stakeholder. Nobody can take that away from me. That's that. And the issue of my contesting as the national chairman in 2014. No, I never contested. I indicated interest to contest for the chairmanship of the party in 2014, and I bought form to contest for that election when eminent and well-respected leaders of the party invited me and pleaded with me not to contest for good reasons they gave to me why I should shelve that idea. Being a party man and being interested in ensuring that the party wins, what should that sacrifice be? What sacrifice could I make other than to adhere to such advice? The form is still with me. I wasn't paid back the money I paid to collect the form. I respected the leaders of the party, and I didn't contest. So I wasn't a contestant. I was an interested person. I was an aspirant. And the next thing he said is that I had never mentioned one thing the NWC did that is wrong. Of course, to start with, I said that I wouldn't want to disparage my party, most especially when the president has declared interest to intervene in the crisis. So to be foolhardy, coming here now to begin to enumerate what they had done wrong. And of course, if we said the party should not go to court, then why should I bring my party to the public court to disrepute? Whatever thing I said about the NWC, the offenses they had committed against the Constitution, the infractions, I'm denigrating my party publicly. This can be handled internally. It can be handled inside. The people who are supposed to mediate, if they invite me, then I'll tell them exactly what they had done wrong. But I mentioned one thing that is fundamental, which cannot be swept under the carpet. And that is the fact that BOT has not been inaugurated since inception. Is that not sufficient an offense? And he said I had not done that. And again, when we begin to talk about people fueling crisis, then that means the people at the NWC are not qualified. If you are a man of your own, integrity, it becomes difficult for anybody to manipulate you to cause crisis in the party you belong. You don't put fire in a house you are ruling, a house you are leading, because somebody from outside is asking you. If you have your onions, if you know what you are expected to do, if you are qualified to be where you are, you should be able to hold your ground and say no to certain things, to certain requests.
Now, Dr. Jaja, ever since you showed interest to, maybe become the chairman of the party, to this point, things have not been entirely clear-cut. One big question a lot of people still ask, at least people watching from outside, is who is the national chairman of the APC? Maybe from an inside view, you have a clearer perspective. So hopefully we hope to clear this one. So who are you interfacing with, as a member of the BOT? What's your perspective on that?
I'm not interfacing with anybody, but Victor Giadam has a court pronouncement that he should act for 2 weeks. Is that too much of a sacrifice if we love the party? 2 weeks, and it's not a sole administrator. All the NWC put together will be just the chairman. At that point in time, you can do anything within. You can equally remove him within. We should respect the court of the land. That pronouncement has been made, so we shouldn't be tearing ourselves apart. We should just respect the court. We are a law-abiding political party. And then, so what is it? It is this particular interest we are talking about, Mr. Sergey is talking about. It's interest that is playing out. Personal interest playing out, probably being fueled from outside, from the right and from the left. And that's why they disrespect the party. They disrespect every one of us who are members of the... I've not been to the party secretary for years because they had no need to calling me. A man who signed an MOU for a party, you don't know what they are doing.
Okay,
as if
let me
you have
take
no
this
opinion. I was the deputy national chairman of a ruling party in this country.
Right.
Don't I have sufficient experience on party leadership to even advise? I don't want to blow my trumpet. I don't want to go that way. But the thing is that I'm sufficiently angered by the way they are tearing the party apart, by the way they are disrespecting the constitution they swore to uphold. It's not to come here and begin to cover anybody, protect anybody. They are totally had done things that are not supposed to be done. and that bringing the party to public ridicule. And there's no justifiable reason for that.
Honorable Osage, I mean, if that were you, if that happened to you, wouldn't you feel aggrieved?
Well, like I said earlier, Dr. Sam Jaja is one of our very respected leaders from the South. I alluded to that. I have no problem with him at all. I feel very concerned that he said he has not been invited to any meeting. I think those are issues within top hierarchy of the leadership to address. But on the issues just now, I think that he has continued to hammer on one point, that Victor Giadom's court order ought to be given respect in order for him to act as chairman for 2 weeks. There are internal workings of the party. Court orders we know have to be respected. But unfortunately, in this case, Victor Giadom is not a party to that suit that has led to a court order. And legal opinions have come in to find out the true state of that court order and the circumstances under which it has been obtained. And the plaintiff in that suit has come out to say he did not and has approached a court for one order or the other. So for the smooth running of the party and the wisdom of the party, the Senator Ajimobi-led National Working Committee remains intact with vast majority of NWC members leading the party. So we must not allow confusion to set in. I am sure that matter is still before court, and at the appropriate time, the right orders will be made. I sympathize with our dear leader, Dr. Sam Jaja, and I know that by the time the top hierarchy of the leadership, the national caucus of the leadership, which I know meet often before the National Executive Committee meets, we'll have to address some of these issues. The Governors Forum is also a critical organ of this party, and they have from time to time remained proactive in intervening in crises of this nature. And I believe that Dr. Sam Jaja is sufficiently high enough to have opportunity to interface with the various organs at this point in time. But what is of paramount importance at the moment is that the activities of one man that is inimical to the head of the party, so as to deny Edo State of a candidate of the APC, is worrisome to many party members. And for those of us from Edo, it is not an action that we will take very kindly. And that is why we frown very seriously at the activities of Mr. Victor Giadom in trying to scuttle our chances of producing a candidate in Edo State.
Just to get clarification,
I believe
Honorable Osage, just to get clarification on a statement you made, you can add this to your thoughts. Now, you said when the right court order is given. What do you mean by the right court order? And you also say that you've gotten legal opinions. Are you saying that this legal opinion or the legal opinions you've gotten supersedes the court's order? Can you just clear that, please?
When an order is made at that interlocutory order, at that interlocutory level, and there is an appeal taken on it, for instance, or a step taken on it to vary it at any level, in principle, it serves as stay, even though it is not an order of stay from the court. The point I'm making is that the party is a responsible party and is also taking legal steps to address that, particularly when the plaintiff, who is said to have obtained that order, Malam Saliu Mustafa, has denied that he never asked court for such an order to appoint him as national secretary and to appoint Mr. Victor Giadam as national chairman. So if a man who is said to have obtained an order has denied that he never asked court to do so, does he not cast doubt on the authenticity or the legality of such an action? So the point I'm making is that the party must be taking legal steps to address those issues. But in the meantime, the party must function and its responsibility must be discharged. And that responsibility includes...
Well, Honorable Osage, I hope we can get back to you now, because when you say one person denied being party to the suit and that in the meantime the party must function, so is the party going to function in disregard of the judgment? Because many lawyers have equally said that there was no appeal on that particular March 17, 2020 decision upon which the extension was predicated. And so if that were the case, if you say the party must function, shouldn't the party... Okay, well, I don't think we'll have him back now. But Dr. Jaja, you heard some of the issues that he's raised about this court judgment and those who disagree with it. Do you think then that, having said that, that explains why is it justifiable, the actions of the party, based on his explanations?
Chamberlain, leadership entails a lot of wisdom, application of wisdom at every level, most especially at the political party level, where diverse interests and opinions are harnessed to achieve the goal of the party. If no matter how the court order was brought about, it is not for you to begin to interpret whether it was rightly or wrongly. Was there a court pronouncement? Yes, there was. Then what should you do as a leader with wisdom? Is to accept the court judgment, let him convoke a meeting. At the meeting, you appeal to him. You say, look, Victor, there is this, there is this, there is this. Let us do it this way. Dialogue is not tearing the party apart, coming to the public. You apply wisdom. That he is the acting chairman doesn't make him an autocrat. An acting chairman has to administer with other officers. And if all other officers put together and say, yes, we'll obey the court order, okay, you've presided over this meeting and all that, but we are saying that this cannot be this way, this cannot be this way, let us do it this way. They will all understand and agree. If they don't agree, you also have the constitutional right to say, you cannot lead us if we go it this way. And not for you to begin to say that this man said that. Why wouldn't the man go to court and tell the court that I wasn't part of that and let the court vacate what the court has given? Is it in your place to begin to pick holes in a court judgment? There is a higher court, a superior court, to pick that hole, not you. Obey that court order. Use judgment, use wisdom. The issue is that when we are prejudiced already, when we are biased already, when we bring out our primordial sentiments into leadership, it fails. And that is what is playing out. You're already biased. Behind you, you had an intention. So whatever thing that is coming, you look for any way to scuttle it. Instead of using wisdom, even if we want to, please, this is my party, and I don't want to, like I said, I'm trying to restrain myself from saying things I should say in the private. It's a party thing. I am not debating with an opposition party. At that point, I should be able to come out fully. But I'm talking about my party. There are certain things I don't need to say on television. And it's just not just an in-house thing. So they have not applied wisdom in this instance.
That's, what you have said just now is valid in that you do not want to disparage your party in public. What makes it of concern to Nigerians is the ruling party at the center and has a significant number of states under its ambit. And talking about states, one of the governors have begun to appeal to Mr. President to intervene in this matter. And it is because the issues in the APC are have already spread to so many states already. Some say it's the same reason that, a significant number of states were lost. And, there is crisis in Edo APC. There is also crisis in Ondo APC. If these issues continue, what do you see happening to your party? And for those who may not be at that meeting, where the meetings that you are proposing, what do you expect them to begin to do now to redress the issues in the APC?
Yeah, we have great leaders in the APC. We have the governors who, in their wisdom, they had watched from the sideline and had decided to approach Mr. President, who is capable and able to resolve this issue. It wouldn't escalate. We've watched Adetile so much in the public. Mr. President is up now, the governors are up, and they're equal to the task. I'm pretty sure that sooner or later, this problem will come to an end.
You talked about now, do you think they were valid?
Pardon?
You said that some party members have prejudices before they go, which inform some of the actions that they take. Some perhaps feel that they have been shortchanged. Some perhaps feel that they have been sidetracked. Consequently, they are also taking action to protect themselves. Do you think it's valid, their prejudices?
Well, I don't know what their prejudices are, so I can't justify or condemn their prejudices because they are not before me. But I think if they relay it to the appropriate quarters, they'll be able to look into their prejudice. I have mine. I really have mine. So we have where to solve it. But everybody who is prejudiced has a right to, and then of course has a reason to. And then when the solution will be found, everything will be tinkered together, and then we'll come out of this crisis stronger and better.
One of those prejudices, if you like the word, was expressed in our conversation with Honorable Agunaima last week, who said that the governor of Edo State wasn't carrying people along in the party, and consequently that perhaps made him and a number of other people in the APC in Edo State, significantly, displeased with the governor. And that's something that a number of people would probably say, look, this is why where we are vested, we have vested interest in this party. Do you think that kind of prejudice is valid?
Well, you are bringing me also into the judgment. To what I said, I don't want to go into judgment. This we can discuss in-house. And of course, the governor of Edo State had left our party for obvious reasons. So I wouldn't want to, but everybody has a right to his prejudice. But it's not my place here because I don't have the details of the complaints they are making. And the governor is not given a chance before me to respond to those prejudices. So it will be quite unwise for me to sit down here and begin to justify their prejudices or condemn it.
What we want to hear is, how you see things, because people watching, for example, they might not clearly understand what's going on. They just see, issues on the dailies and what have you, but they would like to get first-hand information, which, thankfully, I believe is what you've been given us. So regarding yesterday's primary, a lot of people are wondering, well, what do we believe? Did a primary really happen? Did it not happen? How do we move forward from here? Especially because we're building up to the big election in September. So regarding that primary, how should people interpret it, really?
You see, you journalists, you are like lawyers. You dribble somebody this way, like Okocha, and you dribble the person this way, and all you are just going to the same way, all is aiming at the same goal. I cannot answer those questions. It is left for the body. It is my party. If it is wrong, it's left for the leadership of the party to say it's wrong. If it is right, it's left for the leadership of the party to say it's right. I cannot put my party into judgment on television. But if we're in-house, I have my opinion.
Okay. Now, speak to the concerns of those who are not members of the APC, but who see these things happening, the electorate. For instance, in Edo State, there are two factions in the party now. From where you stand as an elder, I mean, what do you think their mindset is now, the people of Edo State? Because the concern is, how do all these things concern the people? What would you say?
Yeah, I'm also worried about the people, but what I want to reassure them is that within the shortest possible time, before the campaign starts in earnest, we must have resolved all of them. So they should be rest assured that APC will come out strong. That's my appeal to them. They shouldn't get worried. In every big house, there must be conflict, but the important thing is the ability to resolve this conflict in time, and then the house carries along. In a family of a big number, definitely there will be dissenting opinions. But the important thing is for the father of the family to resolve the dissenting opinions of the children, and then the family moves ahead as one united body. And that's exactly what is going to happen to our party.
Well, yesterday, there were protests in Abuja. Some people asking NWC to go. And then there were dissenting voices in different parts. People disagree sharply about different things. But after the governors of Plateau, Jigawa, and Kebbi met with the president, the Jigawa State, one of the governors there, I think Kebbi, he did say, look, for the fact that people are able to voice their opinion and their concerns shows that, yes, you do have that democratic norm and tenet within the party to voice their opinion. Don't you think that they will understand if we are to make some of those concerns known? Because they say, look, this is what our party stands for.
Yes, yes. In a democracy, it is important for people to make their opinions known. But if it is an in-house opinion, what's the point taking it to the public? My opinion is in-house. And I know that we have machinery to listen to me in-house. So I don't need to bring it to the public. If I bring it to the public, I might be offending others. I might be offending a lot of persons who ordinarily would have listened to me in-house and agreed with me, will want to, to grandstand and, of course, oppose it, no matter what it is. You respect a man and then tell him his fault, he will accept it. But if you want to grandstand, to tell the man you know much more and you can go to the public and you ridicule the man, I mean, you can say to hell with you. So I want peace. So whatever my opinion is that is wrong, I will discuss it in-house. Whoever I need to blame, I will look at the person straight in the eyes and tell him, you did something wrong. Whoever I need to commend, I look at the person straight to his eyes and tell him, your actions are commendable. And then, of course, we settle our differences in-house. But bringing it to the public, watching our dirty ladies to the public, I may hurt the people who ordinarily will have accepted my opinion, and they will refuse it. And then, of course, I've not done the party any good.
Yesterday, having emerged as the governorship candidates of the APC in Edo State, Mr. Ezeyamu did say that that means that the party is on the path to recovery. So do you think that there will be any point whatsoever to undo the primaries for those who are aggrieved who may want to go to court? Yes, that has to be accepted, and people will then find a way to move on from there.
Yes, why not? If you talk to people's conscience, if you disregard people, then they can take the extreme action. If you invite them and talk to their conscience, definitely they're humans. I mean, nobody benefits anything from litigations. No, litigation is the last option, just to prove that my rights shall not be trampled upon. But if you appeal to the conscience of somebody, I mean, what is the point? After all, we're all in this game together to ensure that the party wins. If the party wins, it's better for everybody. If the party loses, it's a loss for everybody. So nobody will be interested in undoing the party by seeking redress in the court if remedies can be found in-house.
Well, Honorable Osage, we'll have you just in the nick of time, but if you could briefly, because we need to go soon, give us your concluding thoughts. What would you suggest as the way forward now?
Well, Chambale, thank you so much. Sorry for that disruption. Let me quickly inform you that a few days after Gadom obtained that court order making him chairman, a court in Port Harcourt has also restrained him from parading himself as such. But I think in all of this, as party leaders and as party members, we need to take the interest of the party and its cohesiveness as our primary objective, so that we do not destroy the house we have collectively built. We know there are contending forces from time to time, but we must subsume those forces and those interests, within the purview of the party's overall interest. In all of this, I think that we have a common goal, and that is to ensure that the party delivers on its promises to the Nigerian people and to the various subnational governments that it has superintendence over their affairs. I believe this is a storm in a teacup for the APC. This battle will soon be over, and everybody will have a responsibility to ensure that this crisis is put aside.
All right, Honorable Osage, former Minority Whip, thank you for your time this morning. We hope the storm doesn't break the cup, though. But thank you for your thoughts this morning. And also, Dr. Sam Jaja, member BOT of APC, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts as well today. All right, gentlemen, we'll be back in just a moment, everyone. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, we'll be taking a look at this next matter, the image of what you just saw. That action, that unacceptable action about some people in Ghana, well, as far as people are concerned, they say, well, Ghana's demolition of that building in Nigeria's High Commission, that particular one, even though, well, there's a statement that says the government of Ghana did say that the country described that as a breach of Vienna Convention and diplomatic relations. So they put up a statement which says the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration saying investigation is ongoing to ascertain the facts of the matter, promising to bring the perpetrators to book. But according to that statement as well, they, well, much as expressed regret over the incident, promising that the relations will go on well. But there are some parts of that statement that talked about people not being known. Some wonder, well, they don't understand, because if you look at a separate report in that particular country, which did allude to the fact that they had the backing of some security personnel who went in there and did that. But we'll hope to get some deeper understanding of what is going on by Dr. Chukwuemeka Eze, who is the Executive Director, West Africa Network for Peace Building, Accra, Ghana. Well, he's he's lived in Ghana for 10 years and 6 months now, but he is in the country at the moment. We're going to try and get that connection up to him so that he can weigh in on the matter and give us the backstory concerning what could have transpired. Is there a history? Is this a pattern? Is it a one-off? How should both countries react, given what they've said so far? What should happen moving forward? So it's something that will be interesting to see.
I think, there is, as we, had this conversation on this matter yesterday, there are so many questions to ask. I had thought that it was the responsibility of the host country to secure the property for the foreign country and all of that, but apparently it is something. I just got information from someone who knows. Says, look, it's the responsibility of the country to broker the deal and speak with the landlord, as the case may be. But what the issues could now be is, are there contractual breaches between these, a foreign national and the landlord? Once that land has been procured, it's the responsibility of the host country to provide security and ensure, the safety and security of everyone. One question one would want to ask the government of Ghana is, at what point did you know that this was happening or wasn't happening? What are the conversations that should have been had, with the landlord, if there was any such issue? Are there issues, unresolved issues? Do we have Nigerians involved in this matter or not? There's so many questions that one. All right,
let's get to Dr. Eze. We'll have you back this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Could you just delve right into this? What, in your understanding, is playing out here?
I think from where I see it, there are probably three perspectives. First is to look at some historical conjectures. Then, of course, the second is to look at what's playing out at the moment. And then the third is probably to ask questions about who should be blamed and what needs to be done. I think historically, there have been this, if you like to use the Nigerian slangs, there has been this beef between Nigerian citizens and Ghanaians. And sometimes it might be in form of Cold War, but it exists there. The understanding of some of the, forgive my words, some of the illiteracy in Ghana is that Nigeria's Ghana must go is something that must continue to be retaliated. However, what they do not also understand is that that Shagaris regime of Ghana must go was also a retaliation of what has happened in the past. So there's a missing link between that historical angle of what Ghanaians did to Nigeria and which prompted Nigerians' retaliation. But also the socialization process have also endeared Ghanaians to think that Nigerians are their enemies. And sometimes people wonder why the comfort of Nigerians in Ghana and why the comfort of Ghanaians in Nigeria. You will understand that we have 15 ECOWAS member states. Out of those 15 ECOWAS member states, we have 5 Anglophone countries. Out of those 5 Anglophone countries, 2 are where the slaves were settled. That's Sierra Leone and Liberia. So we have just 3 that have some historical ties, including the colonial administration patterns. So even though Nigeria is not bordering Ghana, Ghana become a very natural habitat for Nigerians, and Ghanaians, Nigeria become a very natural habitat. So as I speak here at the moment, even though the figures are not very correct, there are over 1.5 million Nigerians living in Ghana. I do not know the number on the other side. And these are people, as in spite of maybe less than 1%, doing legitimate business and doing some white-collar jobs. So somehow contributing to the economy of Ghana. If you look at the revolution in the banking industry, for example, the Nigerian banks brought that into Ghana. And I can go on and on and on. But I think that what has happened is that over the time, I do not think that our foreign ministry have taken cognizance of the steps that have been taken by sometimes Ghanaian citizens as what somebody may consider to be an affront on the Nigerian citizens. So a step is taken, nothing much is done. It is shrouded in diplomacy, sweet talks, and then it ends there. As I speak to you now, there are certain ECOWAS protocols that is being violated by the Ghanaian authority, and which we have written both to the Nigerian Foreign Ministry, to the High Commission, and to ECOWAS. And yet nothing has been done. As somebody who is heading a organization, the biggest peace-building organization in Africa today, I am made to pay a certain amount to procure what is called non-citizens ID card. The same way a Chinese procure non-citizen ID card, boldly written that I'm a non-citizen within the same ECOWAS community. And that's not my resident permit, okay? We have written to say this is making us look different rather than the same. So it is a violation of the spirit and letter of the ECOWAS integration process and the spirit behind that.
Could you tell us, before you move on to the second and third point,
yes.
what reason did they give for coming up with that? My apologies. Before you get on to the second and the third point, what was the reason behind that?
There are two schools of thought. The first one is we want to know who is in Ghana that is not Ghanaian, so that we can be sure of the integrity of our electoral processes, be sure of our population, and so on and so forth. But the other school of thought says it is actually just to raise money. And the other one says it is targeted at Nigerians. So you can make your own conclusions. Okay? But the fact remains that it is against, even if not in the letter, the spirit behind the ECOWAS integration process. And don't forget that within the ECOWAS community, Nigeria is not a small player, followed by Ghana. So Ghana and Nigeria naturally should have certain relationship that make them to provide leadership within the community. So they shouldn't be doing things that they should ask others not to do. Nigeria is the highest financier of ECOWAS. Nigeria is one of the big five within the African Union. And Ghana is the second highest financier of ECOWAS. So naturally, there is supposed to be this perfect relationship where the two countries, if you like, determine and show direction about what the ECOWAS integration process should look like. Now, if you look at what is happening today, what has happened today, despite these historical antecedents that I've given you and this kind of perceptions that, in my opinion, is also negative, that need to be also addressed. What has happened today is that steps have been taken in the past that have not been addressed. I can tell you without leaning towards anybody that during the regime of Senator Musili Obarikoro, this dare not happen because he was both decisive and conclusive in the kind of utterances he made and the kind of protection that he provided. I think that our High Commission needs to do more than they are doing at the moment. And I also think that the Diaspora Commission should look in that direction. They tried at the point when they were locking up Nigerian shops in Ghana, in Kumasi and in Aboso-Koya, where they sell the spare parts. And this, even though they said it was targeted against foreigners, I can tell you that everybody knew it was targeted against Nigerians because Nigerians came in with more money to invest in business, had sources where they could procure those goods cheaper and sold cheaper. So the whole idea about competition was eroded on the altar of Nigerians are invading the retail industry, which I don't think is the case. However, even if Nigeria did that, what you need to do is to go to court and get an injunction to stop Nigerians from doing that. You cannot on your own take the laws into your hand and lock up Nigerian shops. And our foreign ministry, our High Commission, simply spoke English shrouded in all forms of diplomacy, and it died down. So another step was taken. And now an invasion of Nigerian space in Ghana. That is totally unacceptable.
What was the second and the third point you were going to make?
Yes, the second point I'm going to make is that because these issues were not addressed in the past, that has emboldened both citizens and the government of Ghana to take a step forward. And I think that this is what the Nigerian government should be looking at, to address it head on, not just calling a meeting in Abuja. I think this is something that every citizen of Nigeria that is living in Ghana will feel so proud of, depending on the way it is addressed, or will feel so ashamed to even face Ghanaians if this is not addressed the way it is addressed. I do not think that that letter coming from the foreign ministry, I don't think it's enough. By now, we should be already seeing arrest. Whatever inspired a citizen or a group of people who said they are working under the cover of national security to do what they did is an affront, is a diplomatic shame, and it should not be acceptable to any country in the world.
Any truth to some of the words making the rounds about national security being affiliated to any political interest?
Well, let me say this very clearly. I think that this relationship has gotten sour in the last 4 years, unfortunately. Not that it did not exist in the past, but I think that the current administration have not taken decisive steps in addressing some of these issues. The communication pattern has not been effective. I do not think that it has been supportive. I don't also think it has been respectful to a country like Nigeria. Now, the national security, everybody or most people believe that it was instituted by the current government and an offshoot of the so-called militia groups that exist in Ghana. So even the IUASO by-election that got too violent and even claimed lives and several injuries, I think it was the handiwork of the national security. And people have been speaking up about this national security, that it needs identity, it needs to be identified. But in this instance, they have not even said it is the national security that did it. They simply told those who came around that they had the backing of national security. And why should the police come to the scene of the incident only to be speaking to the same people that committed the infraction, rather than speak to the authorities of the embassy or even speak to the security in the embassy? And for me, it is done carelessly and to kind of say you cannot do anything. And I am pained that this kind of thing should happen to any country, least the Nigerian nation within West Africa, where we occupy the seat of the, where we can say that we are the leader of the region.
There was something you said earlier, Dr. Eze, and it's very, very interesting. You went back to the Ali Must Go days, and you said that also has a predate to it. You lay the issue at the foot of the communication or lack of it. How do we begin to redress this matter? Because just as you said, government to government will speak, but then it still comes back to the citizens themselves to interface with each other. How do you expect that this communication should be percolated to the citizens so they can take ownership and foster peace among themselves?
I had thought that if anybody was still in doubt that the borders around our community called ECOWAS is official, that Ebola did tell us that this was mere artificial walls. I had also thought that the recent pandemic have also told us how our common humanity and ties is nothing but the same. So I think that this is the time for the essence and meaning of ECOWAS to come to fruition. I think that ECOWAS needs to take a step forward. This is no longer the time to continue to lean towards colonial heritage. I think this is the time to indeed speak with one voice, to say that an injury to one is an injury to all. If it can happen to Nigeria, what about countries like Gambia? What about Cape Verde with a population of less than 2 million citizens? We are talking about West Africa superpower. So I think that the leadership that is supposed to be provided by Ghana and Nigeria is called to question at this moment.
Okay, Dr. Eze, as we round?
If we are not...
Right,
Sorry?
just let me put this in as we round off, because you said that this is beyond, calling a meeting or putting out a statement. You've talked about the ECOWAS, perspective, but for Nigeria, what do you expect the Nigerian government to do? What kind of decisive actions do you expect from the Nigerian government?
By now, I should think that Nigeria should have recalled its High Commissioner, honestly speaking. Not because they want to do that permanently, but because they want to send a strong statement. I do not think that reference to Vienna Convention is enough. We have enough protocol within the ECOWAS region to address this issue and also show how pained and angered and miffed Nigeria is. I've not seen that decisive step.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Dr. Chukwuemeka is giving us his perspective on what transpired. But we'll be looking to see how we all approach this, such that, as you heard him say, it doesn't happen again in any other African country, poking the arms in Nigeria's eye. Or even the world. So there you go. So we're back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, Alabi Michael's comment says we are gradually beginning to see what 2023 may look like with the Edo issue. This is what you get if politics is all about godfathers winning a position and revenue sharing and not really based on the ideology of building and developing a nation.
Well, Adenike Sela puts another twist to this one, saying that the quagmire in Edo State's politics is one of the reasons we have few women in partisan politics in Nigeria. I mean, you didn't see that coming, did you? Look at all the drama taking place just for governorship primaries to take place. The women in politics today handling all its intricacies are strong women.
I agree. APC crisis is what Professor Enakena also speaks about. Says APC crisis is distracting the president in the midst of banditry, insurgency, kidnappings, high interest rates, oil money plundered, SMEs crumbling, Nigeria's Naira value is plunging, no working refineries, PMS, kerosene, gas and diesel prices getting higher, and skewed appointments.
Maybe not PMS price getting higher.
Well, that's, yeah, but he didn't add coronavirus disease. That's interesting.
Okay.
That's the elephant in the room.
Maybe the president has that under control. We don't know. But hey, Victor Owa says, an embassy, this is talking about the demolitions in the Nigerian embassy in Ghana, the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana. It says an embassy is a sovereign domain of the country that occupies it. This is an attack on Nigeria. We must not sit back. That's from Victor Owo.
Well, Joseph Dare says, given the wave of change of diplomatic relations, I strongly believe that Nigeria's foreign policy should be critically reviewed to be more firm and aggressive. Nigeria has suffered attack from the least expected African countries. We must reject insult on all fronts. And guys, I mean, no matter what the government does, they need to understand how Nigerians feel about this kind of things, because you have millions of Nigerians who are very top, world class in different parts of the world, in Africa inclusive. Yeah. And they should also know that whatever happens, those Nigerians should not be seen in any other light.
It's actually very, very, painful. This thing happened in China, very recent history. I mean, South Africa, now Ghana, and a number of other countries, some that we are never even going to hear reports about them. If you look at that letter from, the Ghanaian embassy, if it is indeed from the Ghanaian embassy.
That's the Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration Ministry.
The question you want to ask is, I didn't see a line, maybe it's not diplomatic language, but I didn't see a line where the statement says, we regret this, or we apologize for this. Whether it's your national or the government, as far as we're concerned, it happened in Ghana. We need to see someone take responsibility for it. We do not. No one who has responded to this has seen this as something done by some person. It happened in Ghana. So Ghana is the one that did it.
Well, they left the regret parts for the fourth paragraph. But, when you see something like unidentified people allegedly, breached, when we actually saw videos and then there's a mention about due process, it gives us a lot of concern. So we need more to be done.
Well, there you go. So we're looking to see what happens. That is the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. So
I'm Kaido Kikyolu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day and please keep safe.
Yes, of course. Please take responsibility. I'm Mao Yourself. See you next time.